Hydrogen is going to play a major role in the energy transition in the Alpine region. Especially the sectors like mobility, industry, and tourism are going to be highly affected by this new energy vector. In the project of AMETHyST, we are working together 10 project partners in 6 countries to work on the regional development of local green hydrogen strategies. Of course, when you start out such a project, you first have to know what is the current status of hydrogen applications. And therefore, I'm very happy to welcome Eleonora and Jacopo from Fondazione Bruno Kessler. You two researched a lot about what people make out of hydrogen already today and what their visions are and also what their barriers are that they're encountering. So thanks for being with us today. Jacopo, you looked at what the applications are right now and what did you find out? Where do people use it?
If we look at sustainable hydrogen production, the Alpine region mainly relies on electrolysis powered by renewables. And in a lesser extent, biomass gasification. However, it's an interesting option and it's gaining momentum, also given the vast resources that we have in the region. And then if we look at usage, it's quite famous hydrogen to be used in the mobility sector. It's well known. Everyone knows buses, trains, and even snow groomers. For example, if we look at the city of Bolzano in Alto Adige here, they already have a implemented hydrogen bus fleet, and they also installed a public refueling station. Another example is that Italy launched its first hydrogen power train in the Alpine part of Lombardia, which is a region here in Italy, and this happened earlier this year. Another lesser known use of hydrogen is for energy storage, in particular with in combination with renewable energy sources, which are intermittent, and this allows effective energy storage, as hydrogen can later be used to be transformed back into electricity. We encountered examples of this technology during our research within the AMETHyST project. There are several mountain huts and guest houses that generate hydrogen on spot and then store it and convert it back to electricity. And this allows them to become more self-sufficient and even enable off-grid operation.
So we have kind of like both. We have small-scale solutions like mountain huts, of course, and then we have large-scale, like in the field of mobility, of course. Eleonora, who did you ask and who did you talk to and how did you actually derive this information?
So first of all, we prepared questionnaires that we shared with the local stakeholders from the whole Alpine Space region, and we also organized with them some roundtable discussion with the main objective of, first of all, identifying what are the main needs and the targets for the deployment of hydrogen solutions in the Alps. And also we wanted to map what's existing, what's already active in these regions as regards hydrogen. Who participated to both questionnaires and roundtables. We invited, for example, sectoral agency, tourism agency, energy agency, innovation clusters, business support organization, but also universities, research centers, infrastructure providers, and also enterprises. What we discussed with them and what we wanted to know through them by using the questionnaires was, first of all, what's their knowledge and what's their expertise in hydrogen technologies, to map what they already know, what they're already working on. Also, we wanted to gather some opinions and some comments on the hydrogen economy, if they think there's an adequate, for example, regulatory framework or financing tools for developing hydrogen solutions, and also what are the main gaps and the main barriers for this development and what are the possible solutions to overcome these. And also some stakeholders shared with us, and this was very interesting, some best practices and some experience in the sectors. And we will see a bit more of it later with the map we created with all the projects and initiatives that we encountered while speaking to the stakeholders.
This is a lot of information that you derived there, and it looks like very interesting stuff that you came up with. Let's maybe have a look at the results of the survey. And Jacopo, what do you think? What is the current status of the knowledge and the expertise in the different countries? Is there maybe also a difference? Is there maybe one ahead or one behind? No.
No, so I'm going to answer that. I think the reports that we got back was that it's pretty homogeneous. There's no real difference between countries. There is slight difference, obviously, in the knowledge between different stakeholders. But as expected, maybe someone who works in a university is a bit more knowledgeable, right? However, as Eleonora was saying, is that our questionnaires gave us the possibility to look at the knowledge and expertise of these stakeholders in hydrogen technologies. And what emerged as a general trend is that everyone seems to be more informed about production through electrolysis and fuel cell mobility. Maybe it's a bit more publicized in the in the real world out there. I don't know. However, there's it's less known how hydrogen could be used as a storage solution, or how hydrogen is transported around, which is obviously vital. For example, what we can make of this is that we could think of how effectively act on public awareness, right? So if there is little knowledge on something, we might maybe put more efforts into education and informing people to explain that and portray how it works. What we do we also looked at what the public thinks about the economic aspects of hydrogen, and it seems that they all think it's.
We're gonna talk about those gaps and barriers in a few minutes, but you also looked at legal frameworks and financing tools, how people perceive their opportunities, let's say, to get engaged in hydrogen.
Basically, we provided them, the stakeholders, with to give us their judgment on the adequacy of the current regulatory framework or financing tools that support hydrogen in some way or the other. Most people highlighted the shortcomings of the current regulatory framework and the financial system, but also believe that the institutions are actively working on the matter. As you can see from these graphs. It's interesting to add, maybe just out of a curiosity, we did provide a fourth option to these graphs, which read fully adequate. However, it was chosen only by 3 stakeholders out of the plus 100 plus stakeholders.
You also mapped out from those both tools and both graphs, which are available in the report, which was published online. You also mapped out the different gaps and barriers. Is that maybe something we can look at? Do you think people have hope also when it comes to details?
So we looked into stakeholders' thoughts on what the possible gaps and barriers could be, and see what they think about them. And the ultimate aim was to prioritize them. So we created a prioritization map, which is what you see here. And what emerged is that, according to stakeholders, the investment costs and associated risks are both urgent and very challenging to solve. And this is closely followed by the lack of infrastructure necessary to link hydrogen supply and demand. Obviously, this deficit of infrastructure is likely caused by the difficult economic conditions for its development, because it represents a poor business case, and it's hard for people to find people to invest in the infrastructure. We can also see how social acceptance and safety issues are not really regarded by stakeholders as critical barriers to hydrogen ecosystems. This is because maybe they're closely related, and that a negative social perception of hydrogen can be counteracted by providing factual information on the existing dedicated codes. And maybe this has already been done, and stakeholders don't think that it's really, let's say, an issue.
So it remains a high risk, right, to invest in hydrogen. That's kind of one part of it. And on the other hand, but still, the stakeholders were kind of positive. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct. They also believe that yes, it represents a risk, but with the correct regulatory framework and even financing tools such as incentive schemes, this might de-risk the investments at the initial phase of the hydrogen economy that we all hope is going to happen, maybe cascading into an event, after the other of large-scale hydrogen solution deployment.
Thanks for explaining this really complicated graph to us. Who is really interested in all the details and what has been mapped, also we can refer to the document which can be downloaded from our website. Eleonora, what do you think? What are the conclusions when you look at green hydrogen in the Alps in our first stage of this project?
So what emerged both from the questionnaires and the roundtables we organized within the AMETHyST project. So first of all, we focused on local needs and priorities, but we could draw very interesting and general keynotes from these discussions and from the survey. So first of all, it's largely recognized that the tourist facilities and resorts in the Alps are large energy consuming infrastructure, and it is very important to find solutions that can decarbonize the whole sector and the whole regions. Hydrogen is seen by local stakeholders as an energy carrier with a great potential for application in the Alpine areas in each step of the value chain, starting from the production to the end uses. So we saw a big interest in hydrogen and an interest in developing a hydrogen ecosystem also in the Alps and in these touristic areas. The greatest potential is seen in mobility, as already said before, but both for the heavy duty transport and also for the light duty transport. In fact, electrification is not always an option, and hydrogen could serve as an option for the Alpine regions too. Another interesting point that emerged is the interest for the integration also of hydrogen storage technologies that could help be integrated in the use of renewable energies and could utilize the surplus energy from intermittent sources like hydropower or photovoltaics and use it when there is need for it.
So there is a strong need for it, and there's also hope. I think that's what I always read from your report, that this energy vector will develop strongly in the future, and there's also a big need for it. What you also did is that you mapped out all those initiatives, and I think that's also an important part to look at the geographic distribution. And what I noticed when I looked at this map that you came up with in the report is there's a lot going on all across the Alpine space. Am I right?
Yeah, that's true, Stefan. We tried to map all projects and initiatives that are active in the Alpine space regions, both from the production side and the use side and the transport and the distribution and the storage of hydrogen. We collected information both through the discussion with the stakeholders and through the surveys we prepared, but also from hydrogen dedicated platforms that are available online. And from the map, you can see we came up with a lot of projects and initiatives that show the interest that this energy carrier is gaining and has gained in the last few years. I will let Jacopo explain a bit more what you can see in the map.
Looks very colorful, Jacopo.
Yeah, thank you, Nora. So in our study, we decided upon categorizing hydrogen applications in the Alpine region into 4 main areas, let's say. So firstly, hydrogen production, which includes methods like electrolysis and even steam and reforming. Hydrogen use, for example, in light duty, heavy duty mobility, and so forth. Hydrogen storage, distribution, and transport, which we put in the same area. So in this area, we discuss a refueling station, transport trailers, and different hydrogen storage technologies. And then lastly, a cross-cutting area, which involves like educational, professionalization activities related to hydrogen, which they don't focus only on one of the previous areas, but let's say cover them all. In the figure that you see now, we provide a map of the intercepted projects that we found that have a high technology readiness level, as in they're quite developed and let's say are almost close to commercialization. The main purpose here is to highlight and disseminate the best practices in hydrogen-based application within the Alpine space area. So we hope that this map can be, say, available for anyone who wants a robust database on what the best practices are.
So it's also available on our website. Eleonora, what do you think? What are the conclusions also drawn from this map? You saw a lot of trends. What are the important trends here, I think?
Well, first of all, we saw that generally speaking, throughout the Alpine space area, we see a strong push towards hydrogen, and especially towards its use for the mobility. But mobility is not only the only sector that's involved in these projects and initiatives. Especially, we saw a very comprehensive approach to the development of hydrogen ecosystem and to develop the whole hydrogen value chain, starting from the production to the distribution and the end uses. So there's this is also a very challenging approach, but it seems to be working. And one important thing is that together with the hydrogen, there's also a strong development of renewable energies. The two things go together, because where there's a surplus energy from renewables, there's also possibility for hydrogen solutions to be implemented. What we also see from the map and from the mapping of all this project is there are some regions where there are maybe more concentrated clusters of hydrogen applications, but there is overall distributed effort in developing creating this hydrogen ecosystem, and mostly, which is very important, an interest by local communities, by local stakeholders and decision makers to push in this direction.
So definitely we can end on a positive note in this case. There's a positive outlook for the development, and there's a lot going on in all the different Alpine countries and all the regions. We can see that there's different uses, different applications, but also barriers, etc., that people perceive and we need to overcome, of course, in the future. I thank you both very much for giving us insight into your research and these two first reports. These reports are available on our website. It's alpine-space.eu/project/AMETHyST. And you can also follow us on YouTube and X and LinkedIn. So if you haven't yet, join us there for the discussion on hydrogen in the Alpine region. And I say thank you very much, Eleonora, and thank you very much, Jacopo, for giving us and providing us this insight into the current status of hydrogen in the Alpine region. Thank you very much.